Hey everyone, how's it going? So if you know anyone who grew up during the 80s, which I didn't, one of the series that is considered to be one of the most difficult of all time is Castlevania. Well, I think there is some merit to that reputation. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite games in the entire series, the very first Castlevania, the first game in fact I ever played in the series, and why, while it's a very challenging game, it isn't actually that difficult, with one major, very important asterisk. Well, maybe a couple, but let's begin. So if you've never played Castlevania before, good news, on the Switch, there is the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, so you can play this and the other Castlevanias. I will say 3 is a lot harder, 4 is pretty easy, Bloodlines is awesome. I could talk a lot about how I love the classic side-scrolling Castlevania, and that's what this game is, the classic 8-bit side-scroller. All you can do is jump and whip. Like a lot of games of the era, Simon, the main character, can only whip in one direction, straight in front of him. Heck, even a lot of modern games work this way, but it's the jumping that's going to take a lot of time getting used to. Now, some people are going to criticize this as being bad control or whatever, but I just think it's a different way of jumping than something like Mario. Now, control is something that's very hard to describe and very hard to show even in video, but basically what you need to know is when you jump in Castlevania, you are fully committed to that jump. You can't adjust your jump in the air like you can in a game like Super Mario World, for example. For some people, this is going to be really difficult to get used to, but honestly, once you get used to it, it's not too bad. So what's the goal of the game? Well, essentially it's just to get to the end of the level and beat a boss, but there are 6 levels in Castlevania, each made up of 3 stages, which you can see on the top right. If you're new to Castlevania, you might be confused why I'm collecting all these hearts. So in Castlevania, you can use your whip as your main weapon. Also, within these candles, there are various sub-weapons you can collect. And the ammunition in this game, for whatever reason, are hearts. There are some health refills hidden in the stages, but they are few and far between, so you gotta be pretty careful with your health. In the first 3 stages, this doesn't really matter. Each enemy deals the same amount of damage, in this case just 2, so you can kind of take hits whenever you want. Not that I'm going to, I've played this game quite a few times. But as you're seeing, stage 1 is fairly easy, fairly flat. In stage 2, by the way, just to show this off, I'm going to whip at this wall and you can get a pork chop here. That is the way to refill your health. I believe it refills, you have 16, I think it refills 8. With how much I've played this game, I should know that offhand. I was actually trying to do a speedrunning skip, but I screwed it up. So instead, I'm just going to play the stage normally. This stage is just take your time, don't get hit by the frog guys. And while this isn't true of other Castlevanias and other video games, once you're on stairs, you're not invincible, but you can't get knocked off them, which is pretty cool. And one of the most notorious features of Castlevania, which you just saw, is that when you get hit, you get knocked back quite a bit, and this can be pretty bad. Now, stage 3 is pretty flat, and it's where we're gonna eventually get to our first boss, Bat Guy. I don't know. You'll see I collected the axe sub-weapon, which you use by pressing the B button as well as up. That's kind of a staple in Castlevania. And the axe weapon goes in a cool little arc, which is usually kind of bad, but against this bat enemy, it's not. And you'll also see that some of these blocks can be whipped and destroyed. You just kind of have to know which ones. Classic gaming, very fun. Okay, so stage 4 is where the difficulty ramps up. We get arguably the best sub-weapon, the cross, although I'm going to tell you right now, relying on sub-weapons is not a great idea in Castlevania, because when you die, you don't get to keep your sub-weapons. So get used to just using the whip. Thankfully, at just 10 hearts acquired, you are going to be able to upgrade the whip to its max capacity. Yeah, the whip actually has upgrades. You may have noticed that in stage 1, but if you didn't, it starts out as a pretty wimpy, small, and weak whip. Then you can double its power with the first upgrade, and then you can increase its length with the second whip upgrade. Funny enough, speedrunners should never actually see this. They only use the powered up smaller whip upgrade. Maniacs they are. By stage 5, we're going to get introduced to probably the most infamous enemies in Castlevania, the Medusa heads. Their difficulty is a little bit overstated, and you'll notice I just avoid that knife there. They move in a sinusoidal pattern, or an S shape, but it's like a repeating S. Anyway, I'm right about that. And they're kind of annoying in stage 5 because you combine Medusas and pits, but thankfully, the ground up here will actually stop you from getting knocked back. And want to see a cool trick? If you jump here and get hit by a Medusa, you can go and clip through and just skip most of this section. Hooray! Stage 6 has the Crushers. No, not Wesley, Jack, and Beverly. Well, you'll see. There's also a pork chop here, so let's heal up. So these things are insta-kill. They're pretty slow, but you want to make sure you don't get hit by them. Funny enough, the top actually doesn't kill you, so it's not like Mario. And your hitbox is kind of large. That second one only goes halfway, so be careful, but shouldn't be too difficult. Now, what you need to do with these enemies is you gotta manipulate your height. Stairs are a really good way to do this, so I'll show you what I do with these enemies, because otherwise you're just gonna get hit a bunch. This one is pretty good. You can just sit there, whip it, throw crosses. I should mention something in a second. See, here I'm being a little bit greedy, but you can whip and destroy their projectiles, which you can do for most enemies. Now, speaking of projectiles, the cross is one of the best projectiles in the game, and you might notice these Roman numerals I'm collecting. Getting them is actually pretty easy. Once you destroy a certain number of enemies and candles with your sub-weapon, not your whip, you actually can get a chance of getting the double and triple shot, which allows you to have more than one of these on screen. Now this boss, the Medusa head, is pretty easy. I was actually being a little bit careless here, but this is the last boss I would say is easy. And this is where most players on their first playthrough, within about 10-20 minutes or so, they should be able to get here. For me, it's taken me 6 minutes, but again, I've played this game many times. Stage 7 is where things start getting a little bit nuts. We're gonna encounter our first really annoying enemy, the Flea Man. Now, if you're new to the game, you won't realize this thing is a nightmare. Kill it now, kill it quick. It'll jump all over the place, and you see I miss one by accident, and it just jumps. It's crazy. You don't want to deal with these things. Skipping ahead a little bit, another enemy that really sucks are birds. Yes, birds. I don't know what they're supposed to be called, but they're also terrible. They swoop down, they kind of stop, and there's pits all around. Thankfully, I was knocked into a block, so my momentum was canceled. But if that didn't happen, I could have fallen in a pit, which would have been a word I can't say on stream, but it rhymes with pit. I'm also not on stream. Anywho, that's going to lead us to 8. Also, you'll notice that jug I got, that's actually just lucky. It's an invincibility. I don't know. There's like RNG that determines what items you get from enemies, but like Zelda 1, speedrunners know. I don't. I just get whatever. You'll also notice the big hearts. Those are worth 5. Anyway, stage 8 has Medusas, but it's flat at the start, which is pretty easy. The second part of stage 8 is going to introduce a combination of pits, the dragon thingies, and birds. You'll notice that if you whip with proper timing, you should never get hit. But if you're aggressive and you try to go too quick, it can be really bad. You can jump over if you're good, but there's no reason to. You can also just damage boost past them. But yeah. If I wasn't playing so darn aggressively, you can see I'm looking for a pork chop. I forget where it is. It's pretty fine. Now we get to stage 9, the final stage of level 3. Once again, we get birds, we get pits, we get dragon thingies, and we get the mummies. Now, it's actually really easy, and I've done this many times. By the way, don't get the knife. It's the worst projectile in the game. Also, get that pork chop. Very important. Now, the mummies, using a weapon while you get hit can lead to a glitch called a critical hit. And you'll notice that with the mummies, I'm getting hit so often, it is actually possible if I were whipping them to get it. I've gotten it accidentally before. It's a speedrunning trick, and I never knew what was going on. Now, sadly, this fight is a good example of the rich getting richer. I had a really good sub-weapon and a triple shot, so that looked pretty easy. So let me show you from a different playthrough where I don't play as well. So the trick with the mummies, honestly, is to make sure you're never getting hit by the bandages. And you can do that by standing in the right place, but once you get hit by a bandage, you then want to try and hit both mummies at the same time. You can see I'm trying to avoid the bandages and hit the mummies at the same time. It didn't quite work out that way, but since the mummies don't launch bandages too much and they move really slowly, this footage taken all the way back in 2011, I was able to win. But I can show you another fight if that still looked too easy, because I do want to show you this boss is actually kind of difficult. In this playthrough, which is actually quite close to the one you've been seeing for the most part, you'll notice that I don't have a good sub-weapon. and I don't avoid the first bandage, and I have trouble grouping the mummies together, and then I actually get caught. And although I come really, really close because I get caught in that corner there, I just wasn't able to win. Sub-weapon really helps, and yes, old video games definitely are a rich gets richer difficulty curve. I talk about this in Star Fox all the time, where if you're good at the game, you're going to have better stuff, and it's going to make the rest of the game easier. This is a good time to talk about respawning. You start with 3 lives, 0 is a life, so you really start with 4 lives. When you lose a life, you go back to the beginning of the stage. When you game over, however, you unfortunately go back to the beginning of the level, in this case, stage 7. There's no way around this, asterisk. There's no password system, but there's also unlimited continues, so there's no excuse to give up unless you just don't feel like playing the game anymore, which is fair, but you should. Game's fun. Level 4 is where the difficulty really starts to kick up. This stage, stage 10, is kind of infamous, and it's because of these bats and moving platforms. You just need to be, I lost my triple shot, and that was bad. But that bat, the timing is very precise, and that's not the only annoying bat you have to time. There's another one coming up right here. Now, I'm gonna actually wait a cycle. That's something that can help, because if you knock out the bat and just edge across the screen just right, you should line up so that you can whip the bat. If you do it incorrectly, like I guess this was intended or something, the bat might spawn just as you jump, and you can jump right into the bat, and that's that. So just watch one more time the timing. You can collect a big heart here, so you always should have the big whip, which is something that you need to make sure. But yeah, it's just kneel and then whip. It looks easier than it is, but trust me, I've died there so many times. This can be a real pain, this level, and we're not even close to finish yet. And wow, did you just see that whip of that bat? That was a little bit of a risky strat, but hey, it worked. So for stage 11, what you're going to want to do is just stop every time a fleaman drops and whip it. Is that slow? Yeah. Are we doing a speed run? No. And sometimes the game will just throw the fleaman behind you. Do I know why it does this? No. Does it make things terrible? Yes, because now look at the fleamen. They overrun you, and like I talked about, like there's 2 of them, and yeah, you can get completely overrun like this, and it's not great. So you do want to kind of take charge. Remember, health power-ups, hard to find, and the hardest boss we faced so far is coming up. But I've gotten them in a good pattern again, not sure why I got off pattern, and now we got these dragon things. Fun fact, the holy water is a really overpowered weapon. Not using it quite properly, but if you do it well, the holy water can actually trap the dragon and then you whip it. But yeah, I'm on only 4 health, and if you notice, each hit is now doing a grand total of 3. So we're in really difficult territory here. Thankfully, after this dragon, and it's a little lower so it's easier to trap with holy water, we get some health, and we're gonna need it for Frankenstein and Igor. I don't know. It's not even Frankenstein, it's Frankenstein's monster, but like, I sound so obnoxious. Anyway, it's Frankenstein! In a second. All right, I'm gonna get some hearts. It's Frankenstein! So Igor is just a regular flea man, and what you can do if you're just the lamest lamester who ever lamed is get the triple shot, get hearts, and yeah. Easy. Now let's say you're not the lamest lamester who ever lamed and actually want to do that fight quote-unquote legit. Well, you've got options. The axe is a weapon you can pick up, and you can throw axes, which again, you really just want to freeze Igor because, I mean, look at him. He's horrible and he jumps around, and you just want to, as soon as you hit him, he stays frozen for a little bit, and then you just want to knock out Frankenstein. But even with triple axes, it's pretty difficult to do. I feel like I've gotten Igor in a pretty good pattern here, and I'm actually very luckily able to do it. That was close. Realistically, however, you want to make sure you keep the holy water, get the triple shot by knocking out fleamen or candles or whatever you have to do, because, I mean, this is way easier. And this was a boss that I used to spend hours on. I mean, that grainy recording is not my first playthrough, it's just my first recording of Castlevania, and in previous play sessions, I would get stuck at Frankenstein. Now we've got, oh god, now we've got probably, I think, the hardest section of the game for a new player. Honestly, I really do feel like this level is by far the hardest. So it starts off easy with 2 flea men. Now, because we have the holy water in our main playthrough, that's fine, but what if we didn't? Well, then you just kind of have to make sure you whip them, and they can do whatever they want to do. Thankfully, if they go off screen, they can just kind of stay off screen. It's kind of nice, but yeah, this whole section is just terrible. Anyway, back to HD quality. There's like 12 years of experience between these 2 playthroughs, by the way. So stage 13 continues with the skeleton throwing bones. With the axe, it's actually a little bit easier. I do get hit here, and if you notice when I get hit, look how much damage that did. That's right, now 4 damage per hits. With 16 HP, that means 4 hits. You're a goner. Not great. So, if you thought that was bad, just fast forwarding a little. If you thought this stage, which is the easiest in the level, isn't hard enough, how about some more fleamen? Also, there is a hidden pork chop here. One of the final ones you're going to get, so eat up. All right, now we move on to stage 14, and here's where we're going to exploit some off-screen shenanigans. These knights can throw axes at 2 altitudes, high and low. And I'm actually, all right, well, I kind of off-screened the first one by accident, but we're going to off-screen the second one on purpose. And I actually forgot, oh god, I got the axe. That's not what I wanted to do there. Having triple shot holy water is really great, but it happens. Kind of an annoying placement there. As you notice, while you do keep your sub-weapon as well as the double and triple shot through the levels, you do not keep your hearts. Those are added to your score. Stage 14, the knights are the big challenge here, and there's a few more we're going to have to face. There are 2 ways to play the knights. Like a normal person, and like someone who just feels like, I've played this game way too much. Why do I care? Also, there's a free double shot there. The knights, by the way, with the axe, the one advantage is if you hit them beyond their armor, it deals more damage. You can see I'm trying to do that because I know that. You also can try and get behind them, but it's a little bit easier said than done. I try really hard here, but in the end, I just get bored and I wait for the axe and then, yeah. So with these axes, you actually just want to stop. Unfortunately, there's no real animation change when it throws the axe high or low. It just throws an axe. But thankfully, the whip has a big enough hitbox that if you're far enough away, it actually doesn't matter. But that can be kind of hard to do. Still, you can get in a rhythm, and even Jairos from 14 years ago or whatever, I think 12 years ago, did that strategy as well. I just checked. Stage 15 is where things really ramp up. So I'm actually going to be a little bit smarter here and show you the pattern strat, where I just wait, it's 2 fireballs, and then you can actually whip 6 times before the next shot. That's what you want to do. The red skeletons, by the way, they don't die. And also, Jairos from the future here, I've been informed it's not called the hook shot, it's just called the cross. I don't know why I've always called it that. Maybe I was playing Zelda just before. But anyway, we're going to call it that because why not? So that dragon thing you can see by standing on the perfect spot on the stairs, we can make sure that it doesn't hit us. But now we're on to the last, I think, or one of the last pork chops we're going to get, and the hallway. Medusa heads, knights throwing stuff. This hallway, you just got to move. I know you don't want it, but you just gotta move. The more you stay still, the more chances enemies have to hit you. You just need to keep going and going and going. And by spamming the cross, you're gonna get the double and triple shot, making it less and less likely the enemies are going to hit you. But now we got the second hardest boss in the game, the Grim Reaper, and a sickle spawned right where I was, and my first death in this playthrough, by the way. I know I've shown a bunch of deaths, but in this playthrough, that is my first. Now, I want to go back to the VCR footage. By the way, it's not even a VCR. But this is what happens if you stay still. So I have more HP, but look, the axe, the Medusas, I'm just a sitting duck. I didn't realize yet that you gotta push forward. It's so counterintuitive. For the record, this is 45 minutes into my playthrough versus just over 15. So I've definitely improved, but you can see here after I get hit by the axe, I decide just to kind of YOLO, let's go forward. And that was the best decision I could make because it makes it easier to get the double shot, which makes it easier to hit the Medusas so they don't hit me, easier to hit the knight and break his shield, which makes it easier to get rid of him. I get the triple shot, and that's going to help with the Grim Reaper, although I didn't get as many hearts as I would like. So we're going to see how I fare against the Grim Reaper here. You're going to just want to throw a bunch of hook shots / crosses. Unfortunately, once again, I get spawn camped, which sucks. But you can knock out all 3 at once, which gives you a point bonus. I actually do fairly well, but sadly, I didn't really have an effective strategy. I still really don't, for the record. But 2 hits, it's all it takes. And this is what makes stage 15 so difficult. You have that hallway that does all that damage, no healing, and then the second hardest boss in the game. I will say this, if you're used to 2D platformers, I think you can get within probably 30 minutes, not even 45 to this point, but getting stuck here is completely reasonable. Now, the problem with dying as we return to our main playthrough is that I'm not going to have enough hearts to really do what I want to do, so I need to make every single hookshot count. Thankfully, because they're boomerangs, they can hit the Grim Reaper multiple times, which is exactly how you can quick kill this boss. It's just really difficult to do. I should also note here, if you're a speedrunner, there are much better and faster strategies. These are intended for lesser skilled players like myself. And no, I'm not saying that to be self-deprecating. I don't consider myself to be particularly good at video games. I just, like with Pokemon, I don't give up. And that is a skill in of itself, I suppose. But here you can see I'm not seeing good opportunities to hit the Grim Reaper. And I actually was a little bit too passive. I also didn't have the triple shot there. But with a little bit more hearts and a little bit of patience, with 1 hit point left, although it looked like 4, I was able to knock out the Grim Reaper and make it to the final stage of the game. Now, this stage can be difficult, but I'm going to tell you how to make it really, really, really easy. Stage 16, just keep running. I know that sounds, don't get that axe, but just keep running. Literally, just hold the left button and do not stop. These bats cannot also jump there. These bats cannot hit you. That's the strat. I struggled. I don't have footage of this, but my first playthrough I struggled. I figured this out really early, and it made this entire stage really easy. Stage 17 is the last true stage of the game. It starts off really fun with this guy who jumps around and throws stuff at you. Great fun. And now we're going to do something that can be difficult. This section with a bunch of these guys, thankfully actually with the axe, which I usually don't want here, I actually had a bit of an easier time, so maybe I do want the axe. Gotta think about that for next time I play the game. Anyway, we're going to now get to the final gauntlet, and boy is it a doozy. You don't want the knife, that's for sure. We have the birds and fleamen, and literally I just damage boost. I try to get hit and then damage boost, and then I do the same thing, but I didn't get to the stairs. So the way the stairs work is you cannot jump on stairs. When you're next to it, you press up and you get on the stairs. And like we discussed, once you're on the stairs, you cannot be knocked off of them. That's not true of a lot of other video games. After failing the damage boost strat one more time, I get good RNG and I can just walk up. Now, I'd prefer not to get damaged, although it really doesn't matter because we have made it to the last screen. I'm going to upgrade my whip, not that it matters. And here is stage 18. Now, stage 18... Oh, okay. I missed the loading zone. And oh no, I died. Game over. That sucks. Nah, we're right back. So stage 18 has only one thing in it. Dracula. But before you can beat Dracula, you've got to load up on hearts. And I will show you what happens when you don't load up on hearts. Not here. You can actually get pretty far into Dracula's coffin before Dracula actually will spawn, which is good. But you're going to want lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of hearts. Anyway, let's skip ahead. Once you're ready to fight Dracula, you're just going to go all the way in, he'll spawn, and we're going to get not the cross, but the holy water. So here's what I'm going to try to do. Basically, the strategy is to throw the holy water, and that could, in theory, destroy 3 of his projectiles, and then I'm going to try and jump over and whip him. Is that easier said than done? Yes. Yes, it's much easier said than done. But when it works, it looks great. Unfortunately, there's another element to the strategy which is important, which is always be moving. If you're moving, Dracula can never spawn right where you are. But you have to always be moving, and moving in one direction. Don't go back and forth. Just either go left or go right. If you need to, just don't hit Dracula. just take another turn. Each whip of Dracula's head, as far as I'm aware, just does 1 damage. So this is a very long and tedious process. Drac, of course, only 4 hits and you're done. Guys, I've been playing this game on and off for a solid 15 years. I'm not an expert or anything, but for an average skilled player, there really isn't an easier strategy. I have used the cross before to beat Dracula, and you'll see what the issue is with the cross very soon. The one thing that is annoying about this, unlike Castlevania 4, which has a similar Dracula entrance, is that collecting hearts is very long and very tedious. So what if you decide just to skip it? Just get like 19 hearts or something. Well, if you destroy more than one of his projectiles at once, you can get extra points as well as drops like hearts, triple shot, double shot, which I really, really want. Now, there was an alternative strategy that my chat told me to do, which instead of moving, actually just standing in the middle, and then as soon as you see Dracula spawn, then move. It's a little bit tougher, I find, but you hit Dracula more often. So which strat you use is up to you. I'd never done this before, so I wanted to try it out. Anyway, we can speed this up because this is just a total gauntlet, and I wasn't getting the refills of my hearts or the double and triple shot that I needed. But for the first time, I knock off Dracula's head, and it's the Cookie Monster. I don't know what to make of this. This is Dracula's second form, and he is definitely beatable without cheese, but you can see with his projectiles and nonsense. I mean, seriously, it actually takes to load up on hearts, and I'm not kidding about this, a solid 2 minutes. And the Drac fight itself takes about a minute of really good gameplay. So, all in all, it's really not fun to do, but as we speed up, I actually do pretty well, and I have way more hearts this time, which is great. You don't need anything but 4 health, because if you play this last part properly, as soon as it spawns, all you need to do is just use the triple shot. Now, of course, because, you know, I'm lucky, I don't get one, but even with the double shot, as long as you use the right timing, and watch me swaying back and forth, that's not actually nerves, that's me trying to get the timing down. Unfortunately, I do screw up a little bit, and if I screw up a bit more, the battle is over. If I had more hearts and the triple shot, I wouldn't need to worry. But with just 2, now 1 heart remaining, we do defeat Dracula and beat Castlevania in the fastest time I've ever done, 50 minutes and 19 seconds. Truly, I am the greatest speedrunner. Before I go, I just want to show you a couple more things about Dracula. This battle, I had more hearts and I had the triple shot, and you can see it's a heck of a lot less scary with the triple shot. He doesn't even move, it's also faster, and we get the easy victory. But finally, how about VCR J-Rose? Well, he was still using the cross strategy. And as you're gonna see, the cross strategy is interesting because you can launch the cross at Dracula's stomach, which is even easier than the holy water to defeat his projectiles, and then just whip him in the head. This worked really well, and I made it without taking a single hit to the Cookie Monster. The problem is, now what do I do? Now I can throw, actually, unfortunately, I didn't get the triple shot, but the Cookie Monster, you can jump under him, you're trying to attack him. Unfortunately, I mistimed things. I actually think I could do this again, but it's just a lot harder. Watching this footage back is kind of cringy. I'm definitely a lot better than I was back then. And sadly, the one time I actually beat the Cookie Monster with the cross, I don't have the footage to show you because that was my first ever time beating Dracula. This was my second, and how I discovered the cheap holy water strategy. On my channel, JRose11, you actually watched this exact playthrough. That's right, the oldest video left on the channel, although not my oldest video ever. And fittingly, that video, like that playthrough, was rough around the edges, could be better, and yet you can still see the spark of what's to come, which is really cool. As we watch the ending credits in stunning RF quality, I'll say that I do recommend Castlevania 1 if you're looking for a good old school challenge. The game isn't very long, and even this playthrough was only about 3 hours long. Of course, it was my second, but It just goes to show you it shouldn't take you too long, and it is fun and an important historical game. When I said the game wasn't difficult, I in no way want to diminish the skill you need to defeat the game, but simply that at this point in time, I have just played so many games, especially fan games, that are designed to be as ruthless and merciless as possible, and Castlevania just doesn't fit. It's a game that is easy enough that anyone who wants to can play, and I do recommend you play it. So if you do, let me know. Until then, I'm gonna make some more videos for this channel maybe. I don't know. Hope you guys are liking them, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.